It was a quiet Saturday morning at Billy's Bar and Grill, the kind of place where the smell of sizzling bacon mingled with the roar of cooling engines. Outside, more than 30 motorcycles lined the lot, chrome still gleaming from the early ride. Inside, leather vests, weathered boots, and sunburned faces filled the booths. Laughter echoed off the wood-paneled walls, tall mugs clinked, and someone was retelling a story from a ride out west that no one quite believed but everyone loved to hear. This was their pit stop, their pause from the road. No one noticed the boy at first. He stood just inside the doorway, hands clenched around something folded into a square. He couldn't have been older than 11. His hoodie was too big, sleeves hanging past his fingers, and the jeans he wore were held up by a belt with holes punched in the wrong places. His sneakers were worn thin at the toes. But it wasn't his clothes that caught attention when someone finally looked. It was the way he stood, still and alert, his eyes scanning the room with a quiet kind of desperation no child should know. From a corner booth, a biker called out, his voice casual. "Hey there, little man, you lost?" The boy said nothing. Instead, he began walking, weaving his small frame between thick legs and clunky stools until he reached the far end of the diner. There, seated alone with a cup of black coffee, was a tall man with silver at his temples and a long scar running down his jaw. His name was Cole Harper, and though he wasn't the one who laughed the loudest or told the wildest stories, everyone knew when he spoke, you listened. The boy stopped in front of him. His hands trembled as he held out the folded paper and spoke in a voice just above a whisper. "I need your help." The hum of conversation faltered, like a record skipping. Cole looked up slowly, set down his cup, and nodded once. "Okay, let's hear it."
The boy opened the paper. It was a crayon drawing, simple but detailed in ways most adults wouldn't expect. A white van, a dent on the front fender shaped like a crescent moon, one headlight darkened, and a half-visible license plate written in careful block letters. He pointed to it. "This is the man who took my brother," he said. "Can you find him?" The room went silent. Cole took the drawing, his eyes scanning every stroke. The silence deepened when the boy spoke again. "His name's Logan. He's my twin. He doesn't talk. He's autistic. He's scared of strangers. We were at Fletcher Park on Tuesday. I went to the bathroom. When I came out, he was gone. I saw the van drive away." Cole's jaw clenched. Others had started to gather now. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with a gray beard and sharp eyes, stepped forward. Logan Brooks, leader of the Iron Brotherhood, a biker group more known for its charity rides and rescue efforts than anything that ever made the news. "Are the police helping?" Logan asked. "They say they are," the boy replied, "but we're in foster care. Nobody's really looking." The boy's name was Ethan Walker, and in that moment, every man and woman in the room understood what they were being asked to do, not because it was written down, but because they saw it in his eyes. He hadn't come looking for sympathy. He came for action. Logan crouched to Ethan's eye level and asked gently, "Do you remember anything else? Anything that might help us?" Ethan nodded, eyes glassy but focused. "The van turned left out of the park, toward the old industrial road. The man wore a baseball cap. He had grease on his hands. I drew it all as soon as I got back to the group home." The drawing made its way around the table. Raven, the tech-savvy rider in the group, pulled out her phone and began taking pictures. Miles, a former long-haul trucker, scribbled notes in a small notebook. Tanner reached for the state map tacked to the wall.
Logan placed a steady hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You did the right thing, son. We're gonna do everything we can, but I need you to trust us. We move fast and we move smart. You've given us a head start." Ethan nodded slowly, the weight of his worry easing just a little. He wasn't alone anymore. Outside, engines began to grumble as helmets were lifted and calls made. What began as an ordinary Saturday morning had shifted into something else entirely. A child had asked for help, and the Iron Brotherhood had answered. Logan Brooks stepped outside and pulled on his gloves, his mind already running through logistics like clockwork. He wasn't just a biker today, he was a commander, and this wasn't a ride for fun, this was a mission. He turned back to the group gathered by the bikes. "We split up," he said firmly. "Cole, you and me, we'll check the warehouses off Route 12. Raven, get this drawing online. Every local group, every alert board, missing kids pages, blast it. Miles, you and Ruthie take the gas stations along the northern loop. Derek, Tanner, you hit the repair shops and truck stops near the county line. We ride in 10. Raven nodded and opened a laptop right on the seat of a bike. Her fingers moved fast, uploading photos of Ethan's drawing to half a dozen Facebook groups, Reddit threads, and local community watch pages. She typed a simple caption, "Missing child, van involved, please share." Within minutes, the post began gaining traction. Shares turned to comments, comments turned to tips. One pinged her inbox from a woman named Tina who ran a food truck near Morrison Supply. "I saw that van Tuesday evening around 6. It was parked behind the warehouse lot. Driver looked shady, didn't get out, kept the engine running." Raven's eyes narrowed. She forwarded the tip to Logan and typed back quickly, "Which way did he go after that?" Seconds later, another reply, "East, toward the old shipping yard."
Meanwhile, Cole and Logan were already rolling out, engines rumbling beneath them like thunder building in the distance. The industrial side of town was quiet, nearly forgotten. Empty buildings with rusted gates and shattered windows lined the blocks, but that's exactly why it was worth checking. No one would think to look there, but Cole did. He always did. At each stoplight, Logan kept checking his phone. More messages were coming in. Another biker named Jesse, who had once worked security, remembered hearing something about a suspicious van on the CB radio days earlier. White, broken headlight, heading toward the warehouse district. Miles and Ruthie pulled into a small gas station just outside North County. The attendant leaned against the wall, sipping from a paper cup. When Miles held out Ethan's drawing, the man squinted at it for a moment, then said, "Can't say for sure, but a van like that came through early Wednesday, around 2 in the morning. Bought gas, didn't say much, paid cash, smelled like bleach." Ruthie noted every word, and Miles sent the update to the group chat. As more pieces came in, the picture grew sharper. The van had a route. It was seen behind Morrison Supply. It showed up near the industrial yard. Someone had rented storage behind a plumbing warehouse, in cash, no ID. A pattern was forming, and it pointed east. Back at the diner, Ethan remained with 2 other riders who kept him company. He didn't speak much now. He sat quietly, holding his sketchbook against his chest. But when Raven returned to report the growing number of shares and tips, his eyes lit up. He asked only one question. "Do you think they'll find him?" Raven crouched beside him. "I think we already are." By late afternoon, the Iron Brotherhood had moved from a loose search to a coordinated operation. They weren't chasing shadows anymore. They had sightings, they had time frames, they had names of places the van had been. The pieces weren't perfect, but they were enough. Logan stared at the pinned map spread across the diner wall, now marked with red circles and lines. His finger tapped the last known location, behind the warehouse at Commerce Road.
He looked over at Cole. "We need eyes on that lot. Quiet. No confrontation. We don't spook anyone." Cole nodded. "We'll take it slow." Logan turned to Raven. "Let the others know. This isn't just a maybe anymore. We're closing in." The group understood without question. This wasn't about credit or glory. It was about a scared boy, a missing twin, and a crayon drawing that had ignited a fire in the hearts of men and women who had seen too much in life to ignore something this real. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, the sound of engines filled the air again. But this time, they weren't just riding, they were hunting for truth, and they would not stop until they found it.
The industrial district was the kind of place that didn't get visitors after dark. Abandoned warehouses stretched across cracked pavement, their faded company logos barely visible behind peeling paint and chain-link fences. The wind carried dust and silence, and somewhere in the shadows of that quiet, the Iron Brotherhood moved like ghosts. Cole and Logan had parked their bikes several blocks away, choosing instead to approach on foot, their boots silent against gravel. They kept to the edges, ducking behind dumpsters, scanning rooftops for cameras. At the far end of the lot, behind an old plumbing supply building, something caught Logan's eye. Beneath a tarp, just barely concealed, was the back end of a white van. One headlight was missing, and even under the dim orange glow of a distant street lamp, he could see the crescent-shaped dent on the fender. No doubt about it, this was the van Ethan had drawn. Logan raised his hand in a silent signal. They would not approach, not yet. They weren't law enforcement. They knew the rules. If they crossed that fence, they'd risk the entire case falling apart. What they needed now was proof and witnesses. He pulled out his phone, opened the group chat, and typed, "Van located. Do not engage. Record everything."
All around the perimeter, other riders slowly arrived and positioned themselves at angles with clear sightlines to the lot. Raven was among the last to show. She stayed low beside a dumpster, opened her tripod, and clipped her phone into place. "We go live," Logan said quietly. "Copy that," Raven replied. She opened a live stream on multiple platforms and titled it Iron Brotherhood Assisting in Missing Child Investigation. The stream started with a simple view, just the dark warehouse lot and the shape of the van sitting still beneath the tarp. But within moments, viewers began pouring in. Comments flew by faster than she could read. Some offered prayers, others tagged news stations. A few said, "I've seen that van before." Inside the building, a light flickered on. Cole narrowed his eyes. "He's here." Back at the edge of the lot, one of the bikers, Jesse, spotted movement in a side window. He whispered into the radio, "Someone just walked across the floor, tall, wearing a hat." Logan checked the time. It was just past 8. They'd been watching for nearly 2 hours. Every minute that passed was a risk, but also another moment of evidence. He reached out to Detective Warren with a call. "We have the van. Commerce Road. Lights on inside. We're recording everything." Detective Warren sighed. "We're short-staffed tonight. Might be an hour before backup arrives." Logan didn't raise his voice. "Then you'd better hurry." A few minutes later, the engine turned over. Headlights flashed. The tarp slid off. The driver, tall, wearing a cap, climbed in and shifted into gear. The vehicle began rolling toward the back exit of the lot. "He's leaving," Raven said, her voice tight but steady. Logan responded without hesitation. "We follow, but we do not engage. Keep recording. Stay 3 cars behind at all times." 4 bikes roared to life, including Cole's and Logan's. They kept a careful distance, making sure not to cause alarm. The live stream continued as the chase moved eastbound on the old highway. Viewers jumped from hundreds to thousands in under 2 minutes. Raven narrated from the back of her bike.
"We are following a vehicle that matches the description in the abduction case of Logan Walker. We are not interfering, we are documenting. Authorities have been notified." As the van sped ahead, Cole's voice came over the radio. "I've got a plate match, 4 digits, same as Ethan's drawing." "That's it," Logan replied. "We've got what we need." Up ahead, the flash of red and blue appeared like a beacon. 2 patrol cars had formed a blockade across both lanes. The van slowed, then came to a stop along the shoulder. The bikers pulled off the road, parked 50 yards back, and cut their engines. Logan kept his radio open. "Suspect vehicle stopped. Law enforcement on scene. We're standing by."
They watched from a respectful distance as officers approached the van, weapons drawn, flashlights sweeping. The driver stepped out slowly, hands raised. The officers moved cautiously, speaking commands the bikers couldn't hear from this far. But then, one officer opened the rear doors of the van and paused. Seconds passed like lifetimes, and then the radio crackled. Logan heard the words he'd been praying for. Juvenile male located, approximately 11 years old, responsive, repeating, child located, requesting EMS. No one spoke for a moment. Raven let out a shaky breath. Cole took off his helmet and looked skyward. Logan gripped his handlebars and whispered one word, Logan. The live stream chat exploded. Someone posted, "They found him." Another wrote, "Tell the boy, his brother is safe." And somewhere back at Billy's Bar and Grill, Ethan Walker, still clutching that sketchbook, was about to get the news that would change everything. The emergency lights painted streaks of red and blue across the pavement as paramedics carefully lifted a small, shivering figure out of the van. He was wrapped in a thick gray blanket, his face pale, his eyes wide and unfocused. But he was alive. Logan Walker had been found. He was quiet, but when the EMT gently spoke his name, he responded with a small nod and clung tightly to the medic's sleeve.
From across the road, Logan Brooks stood silently, arms crossed, watching every moment. Cole stood beside him, one hand on his shoulder. No words were needed. They had done what they came to do. But the weight of it, the gravity, was still settling in their bones. A squad car pulled up, and from the passenger side stepped Detective Warren. He approached the bikers with caution in his eyes, uncertainty in his posture. "I should cite you," he said flatly. "You interfered with an active investigation." Logan didn't flinch. "We didn't interfere," he answered. "We documented, we followed, we brought you the evidence, the timeline, and the location. You would have missed it." Warren glanced toward the ambulance where Logan Walker was being examined, then back to the live stream still running on Raven's phone. Thousands of viewers, hundreds of shares, real-time video showing everything from the stakeout to the moment the child was found. After a long pause, the detective's voice softened. "The boy, he keeps asking for his brother, keeps making hand signs. Ethan taught himself sign language. He's been practicing for over 3 years. It's how he talks to Logan." Detective Warren nodded once. "We'll take Ethan to the hospital." That night, in a fluorescent-lit waiting room, the bikers sat in quiet formation. Helmets tucked beside their boots, leather vests creased from wear and time. Cole sipped lukewarm coffee. Raven scrolled through comments still flooding in from the live stream. Logan sat unmoving, eyes fixed on the double doors at the end of the hall. They didn't have to wait long. A woman in scrubs stepped out. Her name was Marcia, a social worker assigned to the boy's foster case. She looked tired but kind. "Logan is stable, dehydrated, some bruises, but physically he'll recover." She hesitated before continuing. "Emotionally, he's clinging to Ethan, won't let go of his hand, and honestly, that's probably the best thing for him right now." Raven stood. "Can we see them?" Marcia smiled. 5 minutes, just a few of you. He doesn't do well with too much noise." They walked single file down the hallway. Inside the room, 2 boys sat side by side on the hospital bed. Ethan held Logan's hand, signing slowly, patiently, with tears in his eyes. Logan didn't speak, but his gaze never left his brother's hands. When Logan Brooks gently knocked and entered, Ethan looked up. For the first time in days, he smiled. "You found him," he whispered. Logan crouched beside the bed. "You found him," he replied. "We just followed your map." Cole stepped forward, his voice quiet. "He's safe now, and the man who hurt him,
He won't hurt anyone again." Logan Walker didn't speak, but he turned to Ethan and signed a question. Ethan translated aloud. "He wants to know if he can stay with me if we have to go back to the group home." Marcia shook her head. "No, you're not going back there." She explained that she'd made some calls. There was a couple, Mike and Karen Thompson, who had taken in 8 children over the years. Karen was a pediatric nurse, Mike a retired school teacher. They were part of the Iron Brotherhood's extended family, and they had room, not just physically, but emotionally. They already painted the spare bedroom, she said, and they named the dog Bear. 1 week later, Ethan and Logan moved into the Thompsons' home. It was small but warm. There was a fenced-in backyard and a front porch with a swing. Bear, a big golden retriever with soft eyes, seemed to understand immediately that Logan needed extra space. Karen learned sign language. Mike built Logan a sensory corner with weighted blankets and calming lights. Ethan joined Little League. He started drawing again, not vans or license plates, but cartoons and superheroes. Logan began therapy. His words didn't come easily, but he began to draw too. One day, 6 weeks after the rescue, he picked up a crayon and sketched a motorcycle. Ethan cried when he saw it. 2 months after the rescue, the Iron Brotherhood hosted their annual charity ride, a 100-mile journey across the countryside to raise funds for missing and exploited children. That year, they added something new. Attached to Logan Brooks's bike was a custom sidecar, painted deep blue, with bold white lettering that read, "No Child Forgotten." Inside sat Ethan and Logan, both wearing helmets covered in stickers. Logan gripped the edge of the sidecar tightly at first, but he didn't panic. He looked at Ethan, who signed calmly beside him, and smiled. The ride began at dawn. Over 300 bikes joined, their engines a rumble of unity. People lined the streets, waving flags, holding signs. Some cried, others simply watched in silence. Halfway through the ride, Logan Brooks pulled over and called Ethan aside. He rolled up his sleeve to reveal a fresh tattoo on his forearm, Ethan's original drawing, the white van, the broken headlight, the crooked license plate, permanently inked into his skin. "Why'd you do that?" Ethan asked. Logan smiled. "Because I never want to forget what one brave kid can do. You didn't give up on your brother. You didn't wait for someone else to fix it. You made it happen." Ethan blinked hard. "I was scared." Logan nodded. "Brave people always are. They just don't let it stop them." Logan, the younger, tugged at Ethan's sleeve and signed something. Ethan laughed through his tears. "He says you're cool for an old guy." Logan Brooks grinned. "Well, tell him he's pretty cool too." And as the procession of chrome and leather rolled forward, what they carried wasn't just charity or awareness. They carried a promise that no child would be forgotten, that a sketch drawn in crayon could become a lifeline, that sometimes family isn't what you're born into, it's what finds you when you need it most. 3 years later, on his 13th birthday, Logan Walker spoke his first full sentence since the abduction. He looked at a photo of the sidecar, the bikers, the crowd. "They came when I needed them," he whispered. And Ethan, sitting beside him, hand resting on his shoulder, added one more line. "They always will."